reducing the demand for traditional labor in those activities that are automated, as discussed in Chapter 6, we should perhaps be thinking about how to use our time more beneficially. This may go against what people see as the work ethic, but the definition of that ethic needs to change along with the times. It is difficult to say that today, with a 40-hour work week, people have less of a work ethic than in 1870, when the average work week was over 60 hours. Or, in other words, work is healthy, work generates income, work provides satisfaction, but work is not the whole story. One of the goals of work is to provide for human needs. If our hard work and innovation allow us to reduce the time needed to produce goods and services, why shouldn't we use some of that extra time available to pursue non-work activities? After all, in the early 1800s, the average work week in the U.S. was about 70 hours a week. That number dropped to about 60 hours per week after the Civil War, to 48 hours per week just after World War I, and to 40 hours per week in the late 1920s. Why not 32 hours now? Consider the trends over time of hours worked and income of people working in the U.S. Greenwood and Vandenbruch, 2005, reasoned that these trends occurred due to a. higher real incomes over time, leading to preference for more leisure time, b. greater value of leisure time due to more and better leisure opportunities, and c. reduced need for housework due to labor-saving devices. In fact, those authors attributed most of the reduction in work time to technological change that has both improved productivity and saved labor. In a parallel vein, one could look at the amount of time used by people on work activities and other things, including leisure, sleep, housework, shopping, etc. Time use studies in the U.S., for example, Aguiar and Hurst, 2007, show that Americans between the ages of 21 and 65 spent an average of 5 hours more time on leisure activities in 2003 in comparison with their activities in 1965. Men spent about 6 hours more of their days on leisure activities, while women spent 4 hours more. The women also replaced work at home with work in the marketplace extensively during this same time period. Men increased their leisure time largely by reducing primary work activity. Women shifted some work from the home to the office, but overall reduced the combined work activity and put more time into leisure activities. Note that the average male actually worked less than 40 hours per week in 2003, and that the trend over these 40 years is clearly toward fewer market job work hours. Women, on the other hand, worked far less than 40 hours per week at market jobs, while they reduced their housework/childcare by more than 10 hours per week. It would not be an unimaginable shift to drop the total market work week to 32 hours, since both men and women are advancing in the direction of such a target without any company or government policy in this regard anyhow. This idea may appear particularly odd or difficult to grasp for white-collar or professional workers who do not punch time clocks and who work hours that vary but that probably exceed 40 per week on average. How would these people adjust their work lives in this context? The answer is simple. They would have 4 work days per week and 3 weekend days. The hours worked per day would not have to vary. And if employers really do move to a 4-day week, then extra make-up hours would not be required during the longer weekend. The architect or banker, teacher or marketing manager would just have regular office days on 4 days per week, and then 3 days for relaxing, working at home, and or pursuing other alternatives, including more market work if so desired. For example, a management consultant would have 4 days in the week when he or she would be at work, perhaps meeting with a client, doing research, developing solutions for the client, meeting with colleagues, etc. Then the 3-day weekend would just replace the current 2-day weekend. If this person is already working during some part of the existing 2-day weekend, then he or she would likewise have to work